Hello everyone, welcome to today's reading. Yesterday we left off with John just having learned a major life lesson from Casey through her story of the green sea turtle. And today he's going to head further down this major aha path through a story that Mike is going to share with him. Before we jump in, show you the latest cover. This one is from Lithuania, a very cool perspective that they came up with as well around the cafe theme. So let's jump right in today to chapter 11. I started working on the pancakes. They were as delicious as the other items had been. As I ate, I thought about my conversations with Mike and Casey. They were not your average cafe conversations. Why are you here? What do you do once you know why you are here? What can you learn from a green sea turtle? As I was making some progress on the rest of the fruit, Mike came over to my table. How's the food, John? Terrific. This is some place. You should think of franchising. You could make a fortune. Mike smiled. Maybe I already have a fortune. Then why would you be working here? I stopped myself, or tried to, already too late. Sorry, Mike. I didn't mean that this isn't a great place. I just meant... I'm not sure what I meant, actually. That's okay, said Mike. I've gotten that question more than once. John, did you ever hear the story of the businessman who went on vacation and met a fisherman? I don't think so. Interested? Mike asked. It relates to your comment on franchising. Sure, I replied. Well, the story goes that a businessman went on vacation to get away from it all, to recharge his batteries, so to speak. He flew to this faraway location and wandered into a small village. Over the course of a few days, he watched the people in the community, and he noticed there was this one fisherman in particular who seemed the happiest and most content of everyone. The businessman was curious about this. So one day he approached the fisherman and asked him what he did every day. The man replied that he woke up every morning and had breakfast with his wife and children. Then his kids would go off to school, he would go fishing, and his wife would paint. He'd fish for a few hours, return with enough fish for the family meals, and then he would take a nap. After dinner, he and his wife would take a walk along the beach and watch the sunset while the kids swam in the ocean. The businessman was stunned. You do this every day? He asked. Most days, replied the fisherman. Sometimes we do other things, but for the most part, yes, this is my life. And every day you can catch fish? Asked the businessman. Yes, replied the fisherman, there are many fish. Can you catch more than just the fish you bring home for your family? Inquired the businessman. The fisherman looked at him, smiled, and replied, Oh yes, I often catch many more and just let them go. You see, I love fishing. Well, why don't you fish all day and catch as many as you can? Asked the businessman. Then you could sell the fish, make lots of money, and pretty soon you could buy a second boat, then a third boat, and their fishermen could catch lots of fish too. In a few years, you could have an office in a major city, and I'll bet within 10 years, you could have an international fish distribution business. The fisherman smiled again at the businessman. Why would I do all that? Well, for the money, replied the businessman. You'd do it so you get lots of money and then retire. And what would I do when I retired? Asked the fisherman, still smiling. Well, whatever you want, I suppose, said the businessman. For instance, maybe I could eat breakfast with my family. Yes, I guess so, said the businessman, a little annoyed that the fisherman wasn't more excited about his idea. And if I wanted to, since I love fishing so much, I could fish a little bit each day, the fisherman continued. I don't see why not, said the businessman. There probably won't be as many fish by then, but there should still be some. Then perhaps I could spend my evenings with my wife, walking along the beach and watching the sunset, while our children swam in the ocean, inquired the fisherman. Sure, whatever you want, although by then your kids will probably be grown, said the businessman. The fisherman smiled at the other man, shook his hand, and wished him well in his efforts to recharge. Mike finished the story and looked at me. What do you think, John? I think I'm a little bit like the businessman. I spend most of my days working so that I'll have enough money to retire. I used to do that too, said Mike, but I came to a very important realization for me. Retirement was this time in the future when I'd have enough money to do what I wanted. I'd be free to participate in the activities I liked and could spend every day in a way that fulfilled me. Then one evening, after a particularly unfulfilling day at work, I came to the conclusion that there had to be a better way. Over time, I learned that somehow I'd gotten confused about how things should work. It was so simple it seemed crazy that I'd gotten it confused, but nonetheless I had. I continued to eat my food as Mike spoke. I realized that for me, every day is an opportunity to do what I want. Every day I have a chance to fulfill the answer to the question you glimpsed on the back of the menu. I don't need to wait until retirement. I put my fork down and sat back. I was a little surprised at just how simple that sounded. But that's so easy, I said. If it's that easy, why doesn't everyone do what they want? Well, replied Mike, smiling, I'm afraid I can't speak for everyone. Are you doing what you want, John? This wasn't the direction I expected the conversation to go. I was hoping Mike would keep doing the talking and I could just listen. I thought about his question for a moment. No, not really, I replied. Why not? This was further progress down a path I hadn't anticipated. To be honest, I'm not sure. I didn't really know what I wanted to study when I went to college. Eventually, I made the decision to go into a program I kind of liked, and that a lot of people told me was a good field for getting a job after graduation. Then when school ended, I started working. My focus shifted more and more toward making money. Eventually, I was earning a pretty good salary, and I just sort of settled into a pattern. I'm also not sure I ever thought about this question, I said, and pointed at the menu. Not until tonight. Like I mentioned earlier, Mike commented, it's kind of funny how and when it hits different people. This seems really crazy, I said. What do you mean? What we were just talking about. Why is it that we spend so much of our time preparing for when we can do what we want, instead of just doing what we want right now? I think there's someone you should meet who might be able to provide some insight into that one, Mike said. He got up from the table and went to where Casey was talking with the other customers. I couldn't hear what they were discussing, but in a few moments, one of the people got up and began walking toward me. All right, everyone, thank you so much for joining today's reading. I look forward to seeing you tomorrow. Be well, be safe, be healthy. I'll see you tomorrow.